Hello student, welcome to JoinEguru.net, a leading live online classroom specialized in conducting school level courses as well as career oriented and many professional courses. And myself, Abhra Chaudhary, faculty of JoinEguru in animation and graphics department. Now today I am here to discuss some basic idea and fundamental aspect of animation, which includes what is actual animation is, what are the type of animations are there, what are the basic principles required for the mechanism of animation and career prospect in animation. Now, most of you have a knack to be an animator or somebody are interested in creation of cartoon drawing through animation. Now, for those, this video will help little bit to gain some idea and knowledge about animation. Now, let's start.
Now let us start. Now, most of the people have an idea or are thinking that animation means only cartoon. Now this is because these cartoons are generally animated with the help of 2D animation, and they are so frequently telecast in television or any other media that it's very much familiar to all of us. So that's why it's become a trend, or we start to believe that cartoon is only the medium for animation. Now there are some inner meaning for animation. Now the word animation derived from the Latin word that is anima, which means the soul. Now if we are going to animate any object, it's get moving and it's become live. Now any object have a life inside. We believe that it has a soul in that. So this was a myth and an earlier definition for animation. Now, what was the actual definition for the animation? Now, it's a movement of any object or character frame by frame from one position to another position in a given time interval. Now, let me show an example. Now, this ball is moving from left direction to right direction. Now, this movement we term it as animation, and the object we are going to animate is called the animated object. And here, the ball is an animated object for all of us. Now, time is a very key factor for the movement of animation. In fact, it determines the movement of animation. Now, if I want to move this ball more fast than this, then we have to get less number of frames with a less interval of time. Now, here I have taken 50 frames for this movement of this ball. Now, if I want to make it more fast, then we have to take at least 10 to 15 frames with less time so that it behaves more fast than this, and vice versa. If we want to make it more slow, then we have to take more number of frames along with a long interval of time. Now what is keyframe? Now keyframe is in animation or in filmmaking is a drawing that defines the starting and ending points of any smooth transition. In fact, keyframe determines the position of an object. Now let's get back to that example once again. Now this shows that this ball starts its initial movement from frame number 1, because I give the keyframe in frame number 1 and I give the second keyframe in frame number 50. That means that so the ball completes its action in frame number 50. So here this ball completes its action in two different directions. Now if I want to define more position of that ball, so we have to give define more number of keyframes. Without keyframe, we cannot change the position of any object. So keyframe is one of the another key factor for formation of animation. Next is twinning. Now twinning helps to form the animation in a proper way and in a smooth formation. Now what happens if we complete the animation without twinning? Let me give an example without animation. So let me draw this ball once again from one keyframe to, let me define another keyframe here, and like that we have not defined, rather not use the twinning action. Without twinning, I just change the position of the object. Now see the result. So just it appears and it's not occur in a proper way or in a smooth way. So twinning in this case, rather twinning are two types, that is motion twin and shape twin. So motion twin in that case will help the movement of the ball to complete in a proper way. And what's the function of shape twin? A shape twin will help to change the shape of an object. Now let me give an example of shape twin. So let me draw another ball. Let me draw a ball in one position rather in one frame, and in another keyframe I have drawn a rectangle. Now in order to change the shape from circle to rectangle, we have to apply shape tool like this. Now see the effect. From this circle it's changed to rectangle. Now basically both the tools help the animation to happen properly and in smooth way. Now let's come back to the type of animation. Now basically there are five type of animation. Number one, traditional or celluloid animation. Now this is very much old technique of animation where the artist draw their character frame by frame in a piece of paper. It's very costly and time taking animation. Number two is digital or computerized based animation. Now, in modern times, all the animation are created by means of computer graphics, and this includes both 2D animation and 3D animation. Now, what is 2D animation? Now, 2D animation is nothing but a two-dimensional animation where it's fully based on drawing. Artists create their character or draw their character frame by means of drawing tool in a computer graphics before it's ready to animate. And 3D animation is a three-dimensional animation which applies on 3D object which has both height, width and especially depth to create an illusion in our eyes. Number 4 is stop motion. Now stop motion is a kind of animation which apply object in which the object are applied physically in small transition in a frame by frame so that it appears independently in the time of animation. And number 5 is a motion graphics. Motion graphics is very interesting and a rare type of animation where the animation are created by means of illusion in a movement or rotation in combination to audio. Now typically these are the five types of animation, but in India there is used much usage of digital or computerized animation, which means 2D animation and 3D animation are mostly used here, are most familiar. Now let us come to the types of animation. Now there are five types of animation. Number one, traditional or celluloid based animation. Now this is a very old format technique of animation which is based on hand drawing. Generally the artist draw their character frame by frame in a piece of paper. This is very much time taking and costly type of animation. Number two is digital or computerized based animation. In this sector, all the animation are generated by means of computer graphics, and this includes both 2D animation and 3D animation. Now, what is 2D animation? Now, 2D animation is a two-dimensional animation which is based mainly on drawing, where the artist create their character, import their character by means of computer graphics with the help of different drawing tools before it ready to animate. And 3D animation is a three-dimensional animation which is applied on 3D object which has height, width and depth in it to create illusion in our eyes. Number 4 is stop motion. Now, this is a special type of animation where the object are manipulated physically in a short description in frame by frame so that it behave independently at the time of animation. Number 5 is motion graphics. Now this is very rare and interesting type of animation which is created by means of illusion in a movement or rotation, and this involves the combination of audio in the animation. So typically these are the five type of animation which is mainly used in the field of animated in the animation industry. Now overall there is a high demand, especially in India, of 2D animation and 3D animation, that is digital or computerized based animation. Now the principle of animation. Now this basic principle of animation was invented by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson. Now principle number 1, stretch and squash. This principle determines the property of an animated object. Now this stretch and squash we can apply in a simple object like rubber ball, water balloons to a complex object like human body parts. Now when we applying this stretch and squash, we have to keep the volume of the object as same and don't use stretch and squash principle frequently. If we do so, then our animation will get distracted or it will give an awkward look to it. Principle number 2, anticipation. Now, it's a kind of preparation we take before starting any action. Now, for example, when we start running or jumping, then before that we get little fall down and squeezed our body little bit forward. Then we start our action. Principle number 3, staging. Now this is how or where you are going to place the object for animation. so that it can attract audience attraction. Now, normally our eyes focus in the middle of the stage so that we have to keep our main object in the center of the stage. Principle number 4, straight ahead and pose to pose. Now, when we create an animation, we have to draw a couple of images to make the movement of an object. Now, in case of straight ahead, we have to draw the first pose, then second pose, then third pose, and then so on. And in case of pose to pose, we have to draw the first pose and the last pose first, then we have to come to the middle one, then their middle, then their middle, and like this, we have to complete the whole action. Principle number 5, follow through and overlapping. Now, this applies when one or more object attached with another object. For example, movement of human hand. Now, when we start the movement of our upper arm, then our forearm and palm gets automatically moved. When we stop the movement of upper arm, then the whole action gets stopped. Principle number 6, slow in and slow out. Now, according to the concept of physics, when any vehicle or car starts its movement, then it starts slowly, then it gradually increases its speed, and then it reaches its highest velocity. And when it stops, then it gradually slows down, and then finally it stops. Now, slow start is slow in mechanism, and slow stop is slow out mechanism. Principle number 7, arc. Now, what is an arc? We all know that arc is a curve or a bending line. Now, if I throw an object from a distance, now it falls down maintaining a curve or a bending line, and this is how an arc helps in the mechanism of an animation. Principle number 8, timing. Now, as I have discussed earlier, timing is one of the key factors for animation. In fact, it determines how an animation or animated object behave. If we apply less interval of time, then animated object will move fast, and if I give a long interval of time, then animated object will behave slowly. Principle number 9, solid drawing. Now, if you want to be a good animator, you have to be a good skill in drawing or have to be a skill artist. Besides that, you have to gain knowledge in the fundamentals in drawing, especially in the parts of perspective. And finally, principle number 10 is appeal. Now, appeal determines a character, quality, habit, and nature, which is very much important for an animation. Now, these are the basic principles which help in the mechanism of animation. Now, I will come to the career prospect in animation. Now, what kind of career you will choose by learning animation? Now, your first option to be an animator. If you are a drawing expert or you have that skill of drawing in you, then you can easily choose the career of 2D animator, where you will get the opportunity for human drawing or sketches of human character. If you are on the verge of 3D modeling, then you can choose the career of 3D animator. Next, the most important one is multimedia or VFX. Now, multimedia and VFX are one of the important part nowadays for the creation of movies. Whether it's Hollywood, Bollywood, or even Tollywood, the most fictions movies are created with these multimedia and VFX artists. Now, there's a lot of demand in the market for all of those movies. Even in the normal movies, especially in the fight scene, these VFX and multimedia effects are used in large scale. Now, the creative thinking which creates in our mind or thinks in our brain, it's not always possible to implement those ideas in the real world. For example, Spider-Man, Superman, Iron Man, and all those movies are created with the help of multimedia and VFX. But when we watch those movies, it seems to be a real one, but all those are visualization and illusion. Now, the growth of animation industry, especially in India, is rapidly progressing day by day. If you are compared with IT industry, the height growth of IT industry per year is 9%, but in the animation industry, it is 20 to 22%. So beside multimedia and VFX, you could be choose your career as a game developer, as a concept artist in the field of advertising, education, media, e-learning, and many more. Now, all those fields have a huge demand of animation and implementation of animation. So there are lots of scopes and opportunity in this field of animation, whether you are a fresher or an experienced person. Now let us come the eligibility. What kind of eligibility you have required to enter in the animation industry? It's very simple. If you are a 12 standard pass from any of stream, either science, commerce, and arts, you can join this industry. Now, finally, I'll come to the what kind of software used to do the animation. Now, in case of 2D animation, you can use Flash for drawing, sketches, and human figure. Now, in case of 3D animation, there are lots of 3D animator software. 3D Max, Maya, Revit, and so on and so on. Now, dear student, These are all about the fundamental prospect of animation. Hope you all enjoy this video. Thank you.